The Whitmore University Alumni Hall was decorated in the school's colors. Deep blue and gold bunting hung from every column, and the banquet tables were covered in crisp white linens with gold-rimmed china. Through the tall windows, the campus stretched out in its full spring glory, ancient oak trees, red brick buildings, and the distinctive spire of the library that had stood for over a century. My sister Emily's graduation party was being held in the most prestigious venue on campus, reserved for only the most distinguished celebrations. She'd graduated summa cum laude with a degree in molecular biology, and our parents had spared no expense in celebrating her achievement. I sat at the family table wearing dark jeans and a simple gray sweater, watching guests mingle and congratulate Emily. She looked radiant in a cream-colored dress, her honor cords displayed prominently, her diploma in a leather folder that she kept showing to anyone who asked. "Isabel." My mother appeared beside me, her smile tight. "You made it. We weren't sure you'd come." "Of course I came," I said. "Emily's graduation is important." "Yes, well." Mom glanced at my outfit with barely concealed disappointment. "You could have dressed up. This is a formal event." "I'm dressed fine, Mom." She sighed and moved away to greet more guests. I recognized most of them. Family members, Emily's friends from university, her professors, Dad's business colleagues. Everyone who mattered in Emily's life, all gathered to celebrate her success. My father approached with Uncle Robert, both holding glasses of champagne. Dad's expression when he looked at me was complicated. Part love, part disappointment, part confusion about what exactly had gone wrong with his eldest daughter. "Isabel," he said. "Good of you to show up." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. "Emily's done well," Uncle Robert said, though his tone suggested he was really saying unlike you. "Full scholarship, honors program, multiple job offers already. That's what real dedication looks like." "She worked very hard," I agreed. "Unlike some people," Dad muttered, not quite under his breath. The guests began taking their seats as the program was about to begin. I remained at the family table, positioned at the far end, while Emily held court at the center surrounded by her sorority sisters and honors society members. The university's dean of students approached the podium and tapped the microphone. "Good afternoon, everyone. We're here today to celebrate not just one graduate but excellence itself. Emily Blackwood represents the very best of what Whitmore University stands for: dedication, brilliance, and achievement." Applause filled the room. Emily beamed. "Emily came to us 4 years ago," the dean continued, "as a scholarship student from a family that values education above all else. She took that opportunity and exceeded every expectation." More applause. I clapped politely. Her parents, Richard and Margaret Blackwood, instilled in their daughters the importance of education and hard work. The dean gestured to our table. "Though I understand only one daughter fully embraced that lesson." The room laughed politely. I felt every eye slide toward me, then quickly away. The dropout. The failure. The one who didn't embrace the lesson. After the dean's speech there were toasts. Emily's boyfriend Marcus stood up and talked about her ambition and drive. Her best friend spoke about her dedication. Her professor praised her research abilities. Finally, Dad stood up. He was a successful commercial real estate developer, a man who'd built his fortune through determination and strategic thinking. He commanded attention when he spoke. "I have 2 daughters," he began, his voice carrying across the room. "One of them understood that education is the foundation of success. One of them recognized that opportunities should be seized, not squandered. One of them made me proud by completing her degree with highest honors." He raised his glass to Emily. "My daughter Emily represents everything I tried to teach both my children. She listened. She learned. She succeeded. At least one daughter succeeded." The implied criticism hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. I'd learned long ago that reacting only made it worse. As the formal program concluded and guests began mingling again, I found myself cornered near the dessert table by Emily's sorority sisters. "So you're Emily's sister?" one of them said, a blonde named Courtney who I remembered from previous family events. "The one who dropped out?" "I left community college, yes," I said calmly. "That must be so hard," another girl said with exaggerated sympathy. "Watching your younger sister succeed when you couldn't even finish community college. That has to sting." "I'm happy for Emily," I said honestly. Still, Courtney pressed, you must regret it. Dropping out. Making such a huge mistake. I mean, look at Emily, she's going to medical school. Full ride to Johns Hopkins. And you're... what exactly? I work in philanthropy, I said simply. They exchanged glances that clearly said unemployed. Philanthropy, Courtney repeated. Is that like volunteer work? Something like that. Well, that's nice, the sympathetic one said. It's good that you found something to do. Even if it doesn't pay. They drifted away giggling. I took a bite of cake and looked out the windows at the campus. The new science building was visible in the distance. A stunning structure of glass and steel that had been completed just last month. It housed state-of-the-art laboratories, research facilities, and collaborative spaces. The project had been my idea, my funding, my vision. Emily appeared beside me, her face flushed with champagne and triumph. Having fun. Congratulations, Em, I said sincerely. You earned this. I did, she agreed. 4 years of incredibly hard work. You know what that's like, don't you? Oh wait, you don't. You dropped out after what, 2 semesters? 3, I corrected quietly. 3 semesters at community college, she said loudly enough that people nearby could hear. And you couldn't even finish that. Do you know how embarrassing that is for the family? Dad tells people he has 1 daughter. Just 1. Because he's too ashamed to mention you. Emily. You dropped out of community college, she announced to the growing circle of listeners. Community college, Isabel. Not even a real university. And you couldn't even handle that. Such an embarrassment. Family members had gathered now. Mom and Dad, Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia, my cousins, Emily's friends. All of them looking at me with varying degrees of pity and judgment. I don't understand what happened to you, Mom said, her voice thick with disappointment. You were so bright in high school. We thought you'd go far. And then you just gave up. I didn't give up, I said. I chose a different path. A path to nowhere, Uncle Robert scoffed. Look at Emily, she's going to be a doctor. She's going to save lives. And you're doing, what? Volunteer work? Living in that tiny apartment? Driving that old car? That's not a path. That's just drifting. At least 1 daughter succeeded, Dad repeated, his voice heavy with meaning. He put his arm around Emily. At least 1 daughter understood what really matters. What really matters is education, Emily said, emboldened by the attention and champagne. Having a degree. Being someone. You're nobody, Isabel. You dropped out of community college. You have nothing. You are nothing. The cruelty of it hung in the air. Several people looked uncomfortable, but no one contradicted her. I'm proud of who I am, I said quietly. Proud of being a dropout? Emily laughed. Proud of disappointing our entire family? Proud of being the failure while I'm the success? That's pathetic. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and glanced at the screen. A message from Dr. Catherine Morrison, Whitmore University's president. Asterisk running 5 minutes late. Traffic from the board meeting. See you soon. Asterisk. I typed back. Asterisk no problem. I'm here. Asterisk. Who are you texting? Emily demanded. One of your other dropout friends? Just confirming an appointment, I said. An appointment, she mimicked. God, Isabel, even your excuses are sad. Just admit it, you failed. You dropped out because you weren't smart enough, weren't dedicated enough, weren't good enough. I succeeded because I'm better than you. That's just facts. The room had gone quiet. People were watching this public humiliation with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for car accidents. Emily, Marcus said quietly. Maybe that's enough. It's not enough, she snapped. She shows up here in her cheap jeans and her Goodwill sweater, acting like she belongs at my graduation party. She doesn't belong. She's an embarrassment to this family and to this university. I never attended this university, I pointed out calmly. Exactly. Emily said triumphantly. You never attended anywhere. You're a nobody with no education and no prospects. You're living proof that some people are just meant to fail. The doors to the alumni hall opened and Dr. Catherine Morrison entered, followed by 2 members of the university's board of trustees. Catherine was in her late 50s, distinguished and commanding in a navy suit. She scanned the room until she spotted me and her face lit up with a warm smile. She walked directly toward our table, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The board members followed, both looking respectful and slightly nervous. "Ms. Blackwood," Catherine said as she reached me, her voice carrying across the now silent room. "I'm so sorry I'm late. The board meeting ran over, but we had important matters to discuss. Specifically, matters concerning you." Emily's smile faltered. "I'm Emily Blackwood," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you so much for coming to my graduation party, Dr. Morrison." Catherine glanced at Emily politely but turned back to me. "Isabel Blackwood? Founder of the Blackwood Foundation." "That's me," I confirmed. "The board asked me to personally convey their gratitude," Catherine continued, her voice formal but warm. "The $85 million donation you made to the university has been transformative. The new science building, the Blackwood Center for Advanced Research, is already being called the finest research facility in the region. The board unanimously voted to name it in your honor." The room went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Emily's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor, champagne and glass spreading across the marble like an explosion. $85 million, Dad said faintly. "Yes," Catherine confirmed, pulling out a folder. "The Blackwood Foundation has been extraordinarily generous to Whitmore University over the past 8 years. The science building was the largest single donation, but Ms. Blackwood has also funded the renovation of the library, the expansion of the student center, and our scholarship program." She looked directly at Emily. "In fact, Ms. Emily Blackwood, your full scholarship for the past 4 years was funded by your sister's foundation. The Blackwood Achievement Scholarship covers tuition, housing, books, and living expenses for students pursuing STEM degrees. Your sister specifically created it to ensure that talented students wouldn't be limited by financial constraints." Emily's face had gone white. "What?" "Your scholarship," one of the board members said, consulting his tablet. "The one that covered your entire undergraduate education. That was the Blackwood Achievement Scholarship, funded by the Blackwood Foundation. By your sister, Isabel Blackwood." "But I earned that scholarship," Emily whispered. "I applied. I won it based on merit." "You did earn it based on merit," I confirmed. "The selection process is completely blind. I don't choose the recipients, a committee of professors does. They chose you because you were qualified. But the money that paid for your education? That came from the foundation I created." Mom had sunk into a chair, her hand over her mouth. "Isabel funded Emily's scholarship?" "Not just Emily's," Catherine said. "The Blackwood Achievement Scholarship has funded 47 students over the past 8 years. Full rides for all of them. That's in addition to the building projects, the research grants, the faculty endowments, and the general operating support." "How much total?" Uncle Robert asked, his voice barely audible. Catherine consulted her folder. "Since the foundation was established 8 years ago, the Blackwood Foundation has donated $127 million to Whitmore University. That makes Ms. Blackwood our single largest living donor." $127 million, Aunt Patricia repeated, as if saying it might make sense. "Ms. Blackwood has been remarkably humble about her philanthropy," Catherine continued. "She specifically requested anonymity for most of her donations. We've respected that until now, but with the naming of the science building, we felt it was time to publicly acknowledge her extraordinary generosity." He turned to me. "The board would like to invite you to the dedication ceremony next month. It will be a major event. State officials, academic leaders, press coverage. We want to properly honor what you've built and what you've given to this institution." "I'll be there," I said calmly. "Excellent." Catherine smiled warmly. "And Ms. Blackwood, the preliminary applications for next year's Blackwood Achievement Scholarships are already coming in. The program has become so prestigious that students are specifically choosing Whitmore because of your scholarships. You're literally changing lives." After Catherine and the board members excused themselves, the alumni hall remained silent. Everyone was staring at me like I'd turned into someone they'd never seen before. Emily sank into a chair, her graduation triumph completely overshadowed. "You paid for my college. My entire education. For years. You paid for all of it." "The foundation paid for it," I corrected. "And you earned it. The scholarship committee chose you based on your merits, your grades, your potential. I had no influence on that decision. But the money came from you," she said hollowly. My scholarship. My education. My success. It all came from you. It came from the foundation, I repeated. Which I created with money I earned. Which brings us to the question you all seem to be wondering. Where did the money come from? Every eye was on me now. When I left community college after 3 semesters, it wasn't because I couldn't handle it. It was because I'd already learned what I needed to learn. I'd started a tech company in my dorm room, a software platform for nonprofit organizations. Small at first, but it grew quickly. A tech company, Dad said slowly. I sold it after 4 years for $340 million, I said simply. Took that money and invested it carefully, real estate, stocks, emerging technologies. Built it to just over $900 million in total assets. Created the Blackwood Foundation to manage philanthropic giving. We donate approximately $40 million per year to various causes. Education is my primary focus. $900 million, Mom whispered. Dollars. Give or take, I confirmed. Markets fluctuate. But yes, approximately $900 million in assets. The foundation is valued at $680 million. The rest is in personal investments and trusts. Marcus, Emily's boyfriend, pulled out his phone and started typing frantically. Holy shit. Isabel Blackwood. You're the Isabel Blackwood. Founder of Connect Give. Forbes 30 Under 30. Business Insider called you the silent philanthropist because you refuse all publicity. I prefer to keep a low profile, I said. Low profile. He was scrolling rapidly. You've donated over $200 million to various causes in the past 8 years. Education, medical research, environmental conservation. There are articles about you in every major business publication. They just never have photos because you refuse interviews. I don't do this for recognition, I explained. I do it because I can. Because I was lucky and smart and worked hard, and now I have resources that can help people. That's what matters. The impact, not the credit. Emily was crying now, quiet tears streaming down her face. I called you a failure. I said you were nothing. I said you were an embarrassment. You did, I agreed. Because you didn't know any better. Because Mom and Dad told you I was a disappointment. Because you were taught to measure success by degrees and titles instead of impact and purpose. But you dropped out, Dad protested weakly. You left college. I left because I was building something bigger than a degree could give me, I said. I didn't need more classes. I needed to execute on my vision. So I left, built the company, sold it, and created something that's now helping thousands of people get the education I chose not to finish. You could have told us, Mom said, tears in her eyes. All these years you let us think. I let you think exactly what you wanted to think, I interrupted. I wore cheap clothes because I don't care about expensive things. I drove an old car because it runs fine. I lived in a small apartment because I don't need space. I need proximity to my office. Every dollar I didn't spend on impressing you went into the foundation. Into scholarships. Into research facilities. Into changing lives. Uncle Robert was staring at me with something like awe. You're almost a billionaire. I'm someone who decided that accumulating wealth wasn't as important as using it, I corrected. The number doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with it. The science building, Emily said. The Blackwood Center. That's really named after you. After our family, I said. After Dad's business sense that he tried to teach us. After Mom's insistence on the importance of education. After the values you thought I rejected. I didn't reject them, I applied them differently. Why the science building specifically? Dad asked. Because I believe in research. In pushing boundaries. In asking questions that don't have easy answers. That building will house scientists working on everything from cancer treatments to climate solutions. That matters more than any degree I could have gotten. Catherine returned with a photographer. Miss Blackwood, if you don't mind, we'd like to take a few photos for the university magazine. Perhaps with your family. We gathered for photos. Me in my jeans and sweater, Emily in her graduation dress still stunned and crying, Mom and Dad looking like they'd been hit by a truck. The photographer positioned us in front of a large photograph of the new science building. Everyone smile, the photographer said. This is for the article about the Blackwood Center dedication. After the photos, Emily pulled me aside. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I told her. Just learn from this. Learn that success isn't one path. That education comes in many forms. That judging people by their choices without understanding those choices is cruel. You funded my entire education while I called you a failure, she said, her voice breaking. How can you even look at me? Because you're my sister, I said simply. Because you didn't know better. Because I chose not to tell you. This isn't about punishing you. This is about showing you that there's more than one way to succeed. Medical school, she said suddenly. Johns Hopkins. Full ride. That's a Blackwood scholarship too, isn't it? I smiled. The selection committee thought you were the best candidate. Congratulations. You're paying for my medical school, she breathed. Even after everything I said. Everything I did. You're still paying for my education. The foundation is paying for the education of a brilliant young scientist who wants to save lives, I corrected. That's a worthy investment regardless of our relationship. Dad approached, his eyes red. Isabel, I owe you an apology that I don't even know how to begin giving. I told people I only had one daughter. I said at least one daughter succeeded. And all along you were building something meaningful, I finished. Yes. But Dad, I learned that from you. You built your business from nothing. You taught me that real success isn't about titles. It's about creating value. I just applied those lessons differently than you expected. I'm so proud of you, he said, his voice breaking. I'm so incredibly proud of you, and I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it. You see it now, I said. That's what matters. The party continued, but the energy had completely shifted. People approached me now with curiosity and respect instead of pity. Emily's friends wanted to know about the tech company. My cousins asked about the foundation. Even Courtney, the sorority girl who'd mocked me earlier, apologized profusely. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, I stood at the windows looking out at the campus. The Blackwood Center gleamed in the setting sun, a monument to what careful planning and generous giving could create. Emily joined me, still in her graduation dress, her diploma clutched in her hands. Does it bother you, she asked quietly, that you don't have one of these? A diploma? No, I said honestly. I have something better, the knowledge that I'm making a difference. That 47 students got educations they couldn't have afforded otherwise. That researchers have facilities to do work that might save lives. That's worth more than any piece of paper. I want to be like you, she said suddenly. When I'm a doctor, when I'm successful, I want to give back like you do. I want to help people the way you've helped me. Then do it, I said. Build your career. Save lives. And when you have resources, use them wisely. That's the real measure of success. Not what you accumulate, but what you give away. The community college dropout who became a philanthropist, she said with a watery smile. That's going to be one hell of a story. It's not about the dropout part, I corrected. It's about the choice to pursue something meaningful over something conventional. It's about being brave enough to disappoint people temporarily in order to create something lasting. As I left the party that evening, walking across campus toward my car, a 10-year-old Subaru that ran perfectly fine, I passed the construction site where the Blackwood Center stood complete. Workers had already installed the bronze plaque at the entrance. *, the Blackwood Center for Advanced Research. Founded through the generosity of Isabel Blackwood and the Blackwood Foundation. May those who study here ask brave questions and seek bold answers. *. I'd written that inscription myself. Captured everything I believed about education, research, and the pursuit of knowledge. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. *, thank you. For everything. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve what you've given me. *. I typed back. *, you already deserve it. Just pay it forward. *. As I drove away from campus, past the buildings my foundation had funded and the students my scholarships had supported, I felt the same sense of peace I always felt after events like this. I hadn't needed to prove anything. The work spoke for itself. But it was nice finally to be seen. Not as the dropout. Not as the failure. Not as the disappointment. But as someone who'd chosen a different path and walked it with purpose. Someone who'd built something meaningful while everyone else was judging her outfit. Someone who'd changed lives while being dismissed as an embarrassment. The community college dropout had become a philanthropist who moved millions. And that was a success story worth telling. even if I preferred to let the buildings and scholarships tell it for me.